What is up? I'm Darkside Phil, and welcome to another edition of the Hateful Truth video game review series. And I will be talking in this video about a game that was very, very highly anticipated. And the reason I think it was so highly anticipated is because it's a sequel to a very highly praised game for the PlayStation 3. And I just can't stop burping today. Sorry, I feel a burp coming right now and it's about to kill me. But anyway, and this is why I do everything in one take, right? But also, the first game I had actually played fully through on my original Darkside Phil channel on YouTube, and people loved that playthrough. And so when this game was coming out, people again were highly anticipating that I would play this game. And I've some interesting things I'd like to say about it. I have kind of mixed feelings about the game, okay? And so we're going to flesh it out. I am talking today about inFAMOUS 2 for the PlayStation 3. And so what I'd like to say about this game are a couple things. First of all, the game picks up right after the end of inFAMOUS 1. And so spoiler alert, if you never played inFAMOUS 1, maybe you shouldn't be watching a review about the sequel. Duh. So anyway, at the end of inFAMOUS 1, Cole McGrath, who's the main character of the game, finds out that the whole antagonist of the first installment was actually himself. A future version of himself who had come back in time and given him powers to actually allow him to become powerful enough to stop a monster that supposedly was coming to the city. And this monster called the Beast was supposed to actually cause the apocalypse and just destroy everything all over the world because no one could stop it. And so in this game, when it picks up, Cole is now trying to find a way to make himself more powerful because he's anticipating the coming of the Beast. And so he, again, teams up with his friend Zeke, who, oddly enough, he's forgiven after all the stuff that happened in inFAMOUS 1. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go play the first game or watch my playthrough on Darkside Phil. And he also teams up with a scientist named Quo, who was part of the people who Kessler had been working for all along, and have been tracking Cole, have been tracking Kessler, have been tracking all of these people who were getting these superpowers to try to figure out what exactly was happening. And so Quo is trying to help Cole become more powerful to face the Beast. But as the game opens, it's too late. The Beast is already here. And he appears, and there's a really epic opening battle, which is really sweet. And it gives you a nice flavor of what's going to come in the game. And I'm not going to spoil too much, but basically, I have to spoil this first part. Cole fails. He doesn't beat the Beast when he fights him the first time. And so the Beast is now on a rampage in what is New York City in this game. I forget what they call it. Either Freedom City or Liberty City, something like that. And the city gets destroyed. Cole, Zeke, and Quo retreat down to New Marais, which is this game's version of New Orleans in Louisiana in the United States. And the reason they're going down there is because there's a doctor down there who supposedly has been doing research on blast cores, on blast shards, which are what give Cole his power, and they're hoping that he can help Cole to become more powerful and defeat the Beast. So the whole point of the game is that you're taking it out of this New York City setting, you're bringing the game down to New Orleans, or New Marais, and it's very, very, very similar to inFAMOUS 1. To the point where, the gameplay is almost identical. So you're going to have the same powers that you started with in inFAMOUS 1. You'll be leveling them up over the course of the game, depending on if you do good things, such as you help the people of New Marais, you team up with the police to defeat criminals, you choose good karma choices to solve missions instead of just going out of control and killing everything in sight. You'll have one side of the karmic tree of powers. If you do the other side where you just don't give a fuck, you blow everything up, you have no regard for the innocents, you just tear shit up through the whole game, you're going to get the negative side of the karmic choice for your powers. Now, again, the gameplay is very similar. You're going to run around from mission to mission throughout the city. It is a free roaming game, and you'll be doing a lot of climbing, a lot of parkour, very similar to, say, Assassin's Creed and that style of game, or inFAMOUS 1, it's pretty much the same. You'll be using different things to fast travel, such as the power lines, the rail lines for trains and such. You will be looking for blast shards. There will be pieces of blast cores hidden throughout the city, hundreds of them. And the more that you collect, the more energy nodes will be on your bar, and the energy nodes act as both your health bar and also your power bar for your powers that you use during the game. So Cole has electricity powers to start, and one of the different things about this, and one of the only things gameplay-wise that's different from Infamous 1 to Infamous 2, is that about halfway through the game you get the choice to either team up with Quo or team up with Nyx, who is another person in Numeray who has superpowers just like you. And depending on what you choose, they will help you in missions later on in the game. So you'll either choose the good missions and Quo will help you with some abilities later on in the game, or you'll team up with Nyx and she'll help you with her fire powers for many of the missions in the game. And depending on what you choose, you can also choose independent ways to solve problems. So if the problem is expose this guy and prove that he's an asshole, well, Quo might have a very safe way to do that and say, well, why don't you go in there and snap a picture of him doing something bad? As opposed to that, Nyx might say, well, why don't we just unleash a whole bunch of fucking monsters that'll ransack everything and show that he was doing research at this facility. So they'll have very different takes on how to do certain missions in the game. Now, there aren't too many. I think there's maybe 5 of these missions total, and they do definitely significantly add to either your good or negative karma, depending on what you choose, but it also is completely different gameplay. And also, going along that vein, if you get good powers or bad powers, it is significantly different gameplay. The good powers are focused a lot more on defense. You actually get a shield that reflects bullets and reflects attacks from people. You get a super jump, so you're a lot more maneuverable, as opposed to the bad karma powers are a lot more like just offense. A super powerful grenade that blows the living fuck out of everything. And so what I found was that during my first playthrough, because I did play this game twice, during the first playthrough I did good karma, and I found that it was a lot easier to maneuver, to get around, but the combat was significantly harder. I found on my negative playthrough, it was a lot harder to maneuver around the city. Maybe it wasn't as easy to, say, collect blast shards and such, but at the same time, the combat was way easier, because there were some larger enemies in this game where you need to fight them multiple levels. So first you're pummeling them with maybe grenades, then you have to expose their weak point, then you have to hit their weak point with another item. And I found that with the bad karma, the combat was way, way easier because your abilities are a lot more powerful, and just, I don't know, just a lot better overall. And so, over the course of the game, you'll team up with Zeke again, you'll team up with Quo and Nyx, you'll find some other people who you'll team up with as well, and similar to Infamous 2, there's a couple twists and turns, some things that you wouldn't expect, and the endings, the 2 endings of the game, are dramatically different. In fact, one of them has you facing the beast, because again, the whole point of the game is you power yourself up so that you can fight the beast and defeat the beast at the end of this game. And in one scenario, you're fighting the beast. In another scenario, you actually end up teaming up with the beast. So, wow. What a difference right there, okay? And so you have to think, I'm not going to spoil, but you have to think how interesting it must be. Why would you team up with the beast? And there are legitimate reasons in the game as the story gets fleshed out why you would team up with this guy. So, the game is pretty interesting. But, if you really wanted me to be 100% honest, the game plays almost exactly, if not 99% like Infamous 1. Now, there's 2 schools of thought on this subject. Now, some people would say, listen, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? And Infamous 1 was critically acclaimed. People loved the game. People said they loved the collection aspect, they loved the side story aspect, because there are side missions that you can do to help people or hurt people that'll give you either positive or negative karma. And you don't have to do those, but they add to the actual content of the game. And there are people who say, you know, if there's nothing wrong with that formula from the first game, people really liked that formula, why change it? Why dramatically make things different in this game? Because then you then take the chance of, uh-oh, you change something and now people might not like it as much as that first game. If you want my honest opinion is I liked this game about as much as I liked Infamous 1. I thought the plot was just as good as Infamous 1. I liked the characters. I liked the gameplay. My only real gripe is that the voice actor for Cole McGrath was changed, and he sounds like he's a fucking chain smoker, and it really doesn't seem to fit the character at all. Even by the end of the game, you kind of accept it that that's Cole McGrath now, but really, I don't know what they were thinking when they changed the voice actor for this game. It just doesn't fit. And if you need to change it, okay, get someone who sounds kind of like the other guy, not someone who sounds so dramatically different, and he does sound dramatically different, so that's one school of thought, is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's great that this game plays just like Infamous 1. The other school of thought is, well, we waited 2 years for the sequel. It's great that it plays like the first game, but maybe we wanted some more. Maybe we were looking for you to further the combat engine to some extent. Maybe we wanted to have some newer elements that really weren't added in this game. And really, honestly, yeah, I can say that's a valid point. If you played Infamous 1 and you liked it, you'll like this game, but you might get a little bored or disappointed because there's really not much new in the game. There is one new thing that I will mention, and the one really new thing that they added to this game was user-created content, okay? And I'm just going to shake my head and rub my forehead here because I've always been a proponent of the school of thought that when I buy a video game and I pay $60 for it, I want a complete game. I don't want user-created content that I have to wait months for it to come out. You know, and this is why when Little Big Planet 1 was first released, years ago, I didn't like it. And the reason was I beat the campaign, and the campaign was okay. Had a couple frustrating parts, but the campaign was okay. But at that point, the game was brand new. And when the game was brand new, there was very little quality user-created content. There was a lot of it there, but it was all shit. Now, over the course of time, over the year and a half, you know, that Little Big Planet 1 was out, of course, then lots of user-created content was created, and some of it is actually pretty good and highly rated, and everyone, you know, critically acclaims that game now. It says, oh, it's the best game ever made because, you know, it really fleshed out this whole mod community and make your own game community or whatever. That's fine and dandy, but I knew what was going to happen. I knew I was going to get this game, and this game has the ability to make your own levels. Okay, now it's not anything complex, but it gives you a level creation tool. It gives you all these things. You can place enemies. You can have people holding signs and doing silly stuff. And so, I knew when I played this game when it was brand new, it was going to be shit. And it was. The game, their first playthrough, the game urges you to play some of these user-created levels. The first level they tell you to play is one that was made by Sucker Punch, the development studio of this game. You're fighting a psycho disco ball that's killing people. That's all I have to say. I don't have to even explain any more about it. You know it's bad. And I did actually, off camera, okay, I did try one or two other of the user-created levels, and they were god-awful. They were just something like that. Again, I guarantee you, in 8 months' time, if you go to play this game again, there might be some really good user-created levels. But right now, it's shit. And so why would I even factor that into my review? I'm not going to, because this game isn't really Little Big Planet where you were meant to sit there and wait for user-created levels to be made. It's just something they kind of tacked on and hoped that people would like it, but unfortunately user-created content doesn't really matter in a game like this. There is user-created content. These missions actually do show up in the city map, just like all the other missions in the game, and you can do them whenever you want, and if you beat them, you get experience. But after doing a couple of them, I had no desire whatsoever to ever go back, and actually in my second playthrough of the game where I did Evil Karma, I never did one of them. I skipped all of them and said, fuck that, these are horrible, there's no reason for me to waste my time on this dumb user-created content. So, it's a nice thought that they put that in here to try to add replayability, but it falls flat on its face because it's just not good. It's just, and it's not the fault of these guys, it's the fault of you can't rely on the users to make good user-created content. You should, if you want the content to be in the game, put it in the game yourself, Sucker Punch. Don't count on other people to make good user-created content. And so, overall, what do I think about Infamous 2? I think it's a good game. I think that, again, anyone who liked Infamous 1 is going to like Infamous 2. There's no doubt about it, because it's almost the same game in a different environment with slightly altered powers, with some interesting things that change later on in the game. One thing that I do want to mention is that you do, unlike the first game where it's all electricity powers, later on in the game, depending on your karmic choices, you can actually get ice or fire powers as well. And that's kind of neat, but really it's just kind of a graphical thing, meaning, oh look, it's a fire attack. So what? It's an explosive grenade. You had explosive grenades before in the first game. It's just right now it looks like it's fire instead of electricity. So it's really not that big of a difference or a change from what was going on in the first game. But it is a nice twist that they give you some of those changes. And again, being able to side with either Nyx or Quo and do different side missions, that's pretty interesting. The fact that there are two completely different endings, and they're dramatically different, unlike the first game where no matter what you do, you still end up fighting Kessler. In this game, the endings are very different. And really, depending on which ending you choose, it could definitely lead into an Infamous 3. Either way. And so I was kind of wondering by the end of this game, I wonder if they make an Infamous 3, if it's going to go off the good or bad karma ending, because they both have legitimate plot lines, and I'm wondering what the hell they would be. So, overall, what do I think of Infamous 2? A good game. It's a good game. But they didn't really go outside the box or change that much from Infamous 1. And Infamous 1 was good when it came out. This game's good, but I can't give it a spectacular rating simply because they didn't really do much different. They just said, okay, if you like part 1, just make part 2. Take that same model, put it over here, cookie cutter from the first game to the second game, and just fill in the blanks with a different story and a couple different characters. And that's pretty much it. So, if you really liked the first game, I highly recommend this game. If you didn't like the first game, you might as well fucking just never even go near this game, because you're going to absolutely hate it. They didn't improve or really change upon much at all. It's pretty much the same as Infamous 1. So, what do I give Infamous 2? I would say, if they had added something new that really significantly added to the gameplay, I would give it higher than an 8. But because they didn't, I have to give the game a 7.75. And it's a shame, because I wanted to give the game a higher score, and I was kind of waiting the whole game for a moment of greatness, like, here's going to become something totally new and different that's going to be really cool, right? And it just never happened. It was just the same kind of stuff, the same exact gameplay from the first game. I really didn't feel that there was enough new to this game to give it a, you must buy this game right now kind of a deal. I think the game is long. It is long, by the way. The campaign of it, can be anywhere from 12 up to 20 hours long, depending on if you go for every blast shard, if you do every side mission, and you unlock all the parts of the city. All that, again, it can add to the replayability of the game, just like the first game. So the first game you could have beaten relatively quickly, or you could have taken your time as well. So it is a long game. It is worth $60, absolutely. It is a good buy. But if you didn't like Infamous 1, stay away. If you're looking for something different from Infamous 1, really stay away. You're not going to like this game. But it is a good game. It's just not a great game, because it is too much like the first. And really, I was looking for more. I was looking, again, you're going to have a sequel. I want some more. I want something new. Not something that's going to completely change everything, but at least give me something that I can say, wow, that was cool. It was like the first game, plus there was this cool, new, neat stuff that I really enjoyed, and I just didn't get that out of this game. So Infamous 2, for me, gets a 7.75. And you might not like that, because you might really like the game, but unfortunately, again, I'm honest. I give honest reviews. I scale these games against each other, and compared to other games, compared to stuff like that. Like, for example, Infamous 1, when it was new, I probably would have given like an 8, maybe an 8.25, maybe even an 8.5, because at that point it was something new. Now we're 2 years later, and it's the same damn game. And, you have to really put in more effort than that. You can't just dial it in. Not saying that they dial it in, but they could have put more effort in and put some variety in there that just wasn't there. So, 7.75 from me. That's it for the Hateful Truth video game review series, and I will see you guys later for another game. Thanks.